don't think people understand where this is headed. There'll be a third term. There will be a third term. And I'm not the person saying it. Opeyemi Bamidele says they will, he's the majority leader. And he's a former PA to the current president. So we've got to take him seriously. So what is it? Senator Bamidele says we need to amend the constitution to introduce a single 6-year presidential term. Right? Now, so next, once we finish our elections, we are going to amend our constitution, introduce a single 6-year presidential term. The current incumbent will be elected until 2031. In 2031, what will happen? The question will be, will he be entitled to run on the 6-year term or will he not? Correct? You will then get the best senior advocates in Nigeria telling you law is not retrospective. That is why the administration is supporting the litigation over President Jonathan's tenure. Not because the constitution is not clear, but because they will say there is precedent that says President Tinubu will run in 2031. There will be a third term, and I'm prepared to bet on it. So, in 2031, President Tinubu is going to be put forward to run for a new 6-year single tenure. He will do 8 years plus 6 years, that's 14 years. And the governors will be entitled to do that. The first test will be in Anambra State in 2030. We'll all be alive.
Chidi, I want to...
November 2029.
I want to hope that, your prognosis does not come to pass.
But this is where opposition is failing. Because opposition, I've not said anything here now that I've manufactured. The only thing that is new is the conclusion. But the conclusion is logical.
Of course.
The conclusion flows from the premises and the facts. I've not invented any facts.
Logical flow of the...
But we want to wish away facts. Facts are stubborn. Okay?
There will be a third term. And I'm not the person saying it. Opeyemi Bamidele says they will. Those were the words of constitutional lawyer and former chairman of Nigeria's National Human Rights Commission, Professor Chidi Odinkalu. His comments immediately sparked controversy across Nigeria. Was this simply political speculation? Or was he warning Nigerians about a constitutional path that many had not yet considered? The debate began after Senate leader Opeyemi Bamidele indicated that the National Assembly would be consulting Nigerians on constitutional amendments, including proposals that have been discussed publicly for a single 6-year tenure for presidents and governors. Supporters of the idea say it could transform governance. They argue that a president who cannot seek re-election would have no reason to spend years campaigning for a second term. Government could focus on long-term policies instead of political survival. Election-related spending could fall, and difficult reforms might become easier to pursue. On paper, these arguments are not without merit. In fact, variations of single-term presidencies have been debated by constitutional scholars for decades. But critics say the real issue is not whether the proposal is good, it is when it is introduced. If a constitutional amendment changes the structure of presidential tenure while an incumbent is already in office, questions naturally arise. Should the new rules apply immediately? Or should they begin with the next president? This is where Professor Odinkalu's warning enters the conversation. He argues that if a new constitutional framework replaces the current 2 4-year term system with a different 6-year structure, lawyers could argue that it creates a new constitutional arrangement. If that happened, questions about eligibility could eventually reach the courts. Whether such an argument would succeed is impossible to know today. No constitutional amendment creating a single 6-year presidential term has been passed, and no court has ruled on such a scenario. Nevertheless, the possibility has become a subject of public debate. Many Nigerians are paying attention because constitutional changes often have consequences far beyond their original wording. Another reason the discussion has generated so much interest is Nigeria's political history. Over the years, proposals initially dismissed as political rumors have sometimes evolved into official government policies, while many others have faded away without becoming reality. That history has made many citizens more attentive whenever constitutional reforms are proposed. For some Nigerians, Early public discussion is not alarmism. It is democratic vigilance. Others believe the fears are premature because no formal amendment has yet been enacted. There is another important consideration. Changing the constitution in Nigeria is deliberately difficult. Any amendment requires substantial support in the National Assembly and approval by at least 2/3 of the state houses of assembly. Supporters of the current administration point out that these constitutional safeguards make it impossible for any single individual to change the rules alone. Critics, however, note that the governing party and its allies currently hold significant influence within many political institutions. They argue that this political strength naturally raises questions about whether major constitutional reforms have a realistic path forward. Supporters reject the suggestion that legislative strength alone guarantees constitutional success, pointing out that constitutional amendments still require broad political agreement across the federation. Ultimately, this debate is not just about one president, it is about constitutional design. Should Nigeria retain its current limit of 2 4-year terms? Or should it adopt a single 6-year tenure that applies equally to future leaders? Many constitutional experts who support a single 6-year term argue that if Nigeria ever adopts such a model, the safest approach would be to implement it only for future presidents and governors. They believe this would remove any perception that the reform was designed to benefit a sitting office holder. Others believe that if the constitution is lawfully amended, its application should follow whatever transitional provisions lawmakers approve. The discussion therefore remains both legal and political. What is clear is that constitutional reform deserves careful public scrutiny. A constitution is more than a legal document. It is the foundation of democratic trust. Any proposal to change it should be debated openly, examined critically, and judged not only by what it promises today, but also by the precedents it could establish for tomorrow. Whether Professor Odinkalu's warning proves prescient or not, one thing is certain. The conversation has already begun. And in every democracy, an informed public remains the strongest safeguard of the Constitution.